So you're going to open the door, Abraham?
We are live now, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regular Friday afternoon webinar, which today is featuring Sandra Stevens from the CITB. We're just going to give it a few minutes for more people to join us. We are expecting a few more than we've got at the moment, so just bear with us if you would. We've got a bijou audience, I think it's true to say, this afternoon. High in quality, but not in quantity. So I think we'll give it another couple of minutes. People are just trickling in still, so just bear with us if you would, ladies and gents. Hope you're well this afternoon. Hope the afternoon is treating you well, weather-wise, and so on. While we're waiting, you might like to just go to Slido, get yourself ready for the pre-presentation survey and everything else that unfolds as the afternoon goes on. So just visit Slido there with the normal code now, Leaders Meets LM, and then today's date 080422, and we'll get involved in that very shortly. I think we'll give it just another 60 seconds, Howard, I think, and then we'll make a start.
Yeah, it's getting quite noisy here, Andrew. I don't know whether you want to take it.
Okay, I'll do. Yeah, okay, I can hear your background now. Yes.
Yeah.
You're obviously partying hard. Good luck to you. So I'll go through the stuff. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll give it till 3 minutes past, and then we'll make a start, I think. So almost there, almost there. I'm just going to go onto my own Slido actually, because I ought to fill in the questionnaire really. Slido.com. There we go. LM. Here we go. LM 080422. Let's do it. Great, we're in. Okay, well, very good afternoon to you, ladies and gents. We will make a start. It's 3 minutes past 12, so others can join us as we go along. Very warm welcome to our regular session now on a Friday lunchtime. We've been doing it now for well over 2 years. I'm Andrew Carpenter. I'm Chief Executive of the Structural Timber Association and also Constructing Excellence in the Midlands and the Southwest. And I'm joined, as you can see on the screen, by a plethora of other hosts now, my family of CE regions from across the UK and also the CIOB. So we're all bringing you these Friday sessions, which I know you find so valuable. Today, we're going to be discussing the very important topic of future skills with Sandra Stevens. Sandra, I'm so pleased you could give up your valuable time to share this knowledge with us. Of course, it's not just the presentation today, but we spin this out on social media, so there will be people viewing and listening at their own leisure, as it were, in terms of available time. So that's good. Before we get underway, I've already mentioned the Slido.com, but if you could go to Slido, put in hashtag LM080422, and here comes the survey. If we could ask you, please, first of all, a series of questions. What is the biggest challenge to your organization now? Is it recruiting new staff, environmental and sustainability requirements, or materials and labor costs? So if you could answer that one, that would be super. And then the next question, please, Abraham. To what level is your organization digitally enabled, e.g. BIM, digital twin, etc.? So is it fully skilled and competent, work in progress, or not at all? And the next question, please. How important is recruitment of new talent to your organization at the moment? Very important. We're thinking about it, not on the radar. And then we have one more question. What do you think your biggest challenge will be over the next 5 years? So if you could make that. No, I'm writing mine now as we speak. So I've done mine. Mine sent off. That's it. There's 2 in. So we need a few more responses, ladies and gents, please, if you would be so very kind. But we're going to keep that up for a while because we'll come to the answers, Sandra, after your presentation, won't we?
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Okay. So if we could go back to the holding slide, that would be super. Abraham, thank you very much. As I say, I'm delighted that Sandra could join us today. Sandra Stevens is someone that I've worked with now for about 4 years, Sandra, I think, isn't it, in the Midlands?
Yep.
And
4 years now.
We have a close working relationship, CE Midlands and the CITB, which is good. So I asked Sandra to come along just to give an update on what the CITB is doing, all around future skills, all around recruitment, and so on. So I'm going to hand over the reins to you. I'm going to go on mute and turn my camera off, and then we'll come back after to go through the results of the survey and also to answer any questions that we may have. So the floor is yours, Sandra.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you ever so much for inviting me here today. I'm really pleased to be speaking to you. First slide, please, Abraham. So I'm guessing most people know what CITB is and who we are, but just in case, just very briefly, CITB has been around since 1964. It's a non-department government department, and it's sponsored by the Department for Education, and is also a recognised charity. So our aims are to ensure that employers have got the quality of training that they want, the training is relevant, and it helps to build a really skilled and professional workforce. And we do that through our 3 core pillars, which is careers, making sure that we put the right support in place for new entrants into the industry, which is absolutely crucial. Training and development, so making sure that our existing employers have got are skilled and trained for their priorities, and we provide funding for employers to do that. But also the standards and qualifications, so they're fit for purpose, they're focused on competence and performances, but they also embed the behaviours that we need as well. So it's hard skills as well as the soft skills. And our industry is extremely diverse and fragmented, which is probably why we're still only one of the 2 existing industry training boards left from, I think there was about 27 years gone by, but now there's just the Construction Industry Training Board and the Engineering Construction Industry Training Board. Next slide, please. So as Andrew said, I work in our customer engagement team. So that's our industry-facing team. I'm the customer engagement manager, so I cover the Midlands region, which is Worcestershire, where I'm based, up to Staffordshire, across to Lincolnshire, and back down to Milton Keynes and Bedford. So it's a big patch. There's an awful lot going on in our region. But we've also got a team of advisors who are based locally, either county-wide or LEP-wide, and they're more sort of operationally based there to support our employers, especially our SME employers, to ensure that they've got the right access to skills and training, and also they've got the access to the funding they need as well. We also work very closely with our education partners, so that's HGFE and independent training providers. As I say, we're a relatively small team with an awful lot of cover. We try to be as proactive as we can, not always possible, but I would absolutely encourage you to get in touch if you need anything. My details are on the screen there. They're also on the our website, and we've got an inbox for customer engagement, which is monitored daily and sent to the right advisors relevant to your location. Next one. So one of our outputs is the Construction Skills Network data. So this is published annually in partnership with Experian, and it is a rolling 5-year forecast which provides insights into the UK construction industry, and it's based very much on the economy, construction work, so the pipeline, and also construction workforce existing and needed. So the economy, past couple of years, it's very much been led by COVID and Brexit, and the difficulties around that. But going forward, you know, we're looking at cost of living and the effects of what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. So there's a lot of uncertainties. So the CSZ info, as I say, it's a relationship between the economy, the work output, and the construction workforce. And it highlights trends and how the industry is likely to change year on year for the next 5 years. And it provides market intelligence and insights to the industry. And this allows the government and businesses and local authorities and providers to help plan based on the current and future climate. So it looks at supply and demand separately. So pipeline is looked at separately, existing skills looked at separately, possible skills shortages are looked at separately. And it also looks at the sectors that are likely to drive the work output. So housing, infrastructure, RMI, commercial, they're also looked at separately. And for us, it very much helps to highlight the demand for certain skills. But also importantly, it looks at, it allows us to understand the levels of new entrants required and the qualifications that they're going to need, so that the industry has got the correct workforce and the relevantly skilled and competent workforce. So you can see that that data is really, really important for national, local and project level planning. Next slide, please. So unfortunately, I was hoping to have this year's forecast, but it's been delayed slightly till June. We've noticed some discrepancies through the projection, between the projection and ONS actual figures. So they've gone back to be looked at properly again. So we're hoping to have the 22-26 forecast by early June. But these are some of the key messages that came out of last year's 21-25 forecast. Crucially, average rate of growth nationally was predicted to be about 4.4% across the 5 years, and that's mainly driven by housing and infrastructure. Commercial had taken a little bit of a dip due to COVID, but also growth in the R&M sector due to people, you know, not being able to go very far, spending a little bit more money on their houses during lockdown, that sort of thing. As I say, industrial, commercial took a little bit of a hit, but that's expected to come back fairly strong. Workforce-wise, the average growth rate 1% across the 5 years, which translates into an annual recruitment requirement of 43,350 over each year. So that's 216,800 extra workers to be recruited over the 5 years. I think being able to see that infrastructure and housing is driving that economy, that helps us to be able to know that those skills in those sectors, in those occupations, are the ones that are going to be in demand. Next slide, please. So we also produce, that's the UK summary, but we also produce regional reports. So that drills down into how the effect is going to be seen across each region, again, based on the regional economy, based on the pipeline of projects, what's driving the demand, and what's the provision already there and the likely need for new people coming into the industry. And this is just a highlight from the area I'm based in the West Midlands, which shows that the annual growth rate is predicted to be 4.8, which, as you can see, is slightly above the national average. And that reflects the work that's going on, largely driven by infrastructure with the Midlands Metro, HS2, that sort of thing. But it also shows that we need 5,000 extra employees per year over the next 5 years, which is key. But also on the top of that, it's great having the data, but having that local knowledge is also key. So I know from working across projects across my patch, talking to our employers, that there's a real shortage of dry liners out there, and a lot of projects are really struggling to get those in. So that having the data is great, but having that anecdotal qualitative data is also key. Knowing that the struggle that we're having in our patch across the Midlands is reflected nationally, we can then do something about it. And that's resulted in higher incentives to take on dry line apprentices. So having that, having those relationships locally with our employers helps us to feed that intelligence back in. So we're not just reliant on data coming from ONS and all sorts of other avenues. So absolute key to have those relationships. Next slide, please. So I have asked our industry forecast and analysis team who work on producing this report whether the data includes the decarbonisation agenda and what the impacts of that is likely to be. And the answer was no, it's not as yet, because so far we haven't got sufficient data of current demands to be able to predict a trend. So all of those figures that I've just mentioned there, with the extra 216,000 people needed over the next 5 years, that doesn't include the jobs that are likely to be created or upskilled due to the increase in decarbonisation impact, or the term that's widely used, which I really don't like, is green jobs. So just over 12 months ago now, we produced the paper report, Building Skills for Net Zero. And this was very much a sort of starter for 10, if you like, what the impacts on skills is likely to be, what the impacts on jobs, what the new jobs created is likely to be. And it's a very, very, very good report. Huge report, about 200 pages long, but very in depth. But this the report looked at the operational carbon impacts. So from new builds to retrofitting the new stock. So what it didn't take into account was embodied carbon. But I think with the increased requirement for Scope 3 reporting, that's going to get more and more crucial. So new ways of working, but especially for our supply chain. So there's a lot of work to be done around awareness raising on new ways of working, materials, recruitment, local work, that sort of thing, and how that affects the embodied carbon reporting Scope 3. It's very, there's a lot of noise around it at the moment. It's very scary, but I don't think it has to be. So the Climate Change Committee, the industry and the government insights all recognise that there are significant skills barriers to eliminating carbon. And as I said, essentially, so delivering low energy buildings, new buildings at scale, which is key, and also the programme of retrofit at scale is the key. As yet, we're not there, and we're still waiting for that to ramp up. And until it does ramp up, it's very difficult then to match the supply to the demand. Next slide, please. So if we just take retrofit, this slide is just dealing with retrofit really. The buildings constructed now, the new buildings that we're doing with the new standards, they are likely to be 4 times the performance of the existing older buildings that we've got in our stock. And it's predicted that 80% of the homes and buildings in 2025 are the ones that we've already got. So existing buildings. So those are the ones that are going to be needing the retrofit. It's also worth bearing in mind that we won't achieve government net zero targets with the existing and even the future standards that we've got. So again, embodied carbon and new ways of working, materials, is going to be really key to be able to achieve net zero. £45 billion investment needed. I think you can ignore that. It's going to be way, way more than that. But crucially, and again, linking back to the CSN skills requirements, new job requirements, up to 350,000 jobs will be needed, will be created in the energy efficiency business by the end of 2020s. Again, 2020s, you can take that as it is. It's something that's come out of a big model, that's churned out of a model. But that's an increase of 13% on the current workforce in that sector. Next one, please, Abraham. So what do those future green jobs look like? So again, for retrofit, we've already got those roles designated in past 2035. So if and when that becomes mandatory, the roles inside that framework will be retrofit assessors, coordinators, designers, evaluators, monitors. Some of those already exist. Some of those are upskilling. Installers, so insulation installers, heat pump installers, that sort of thing. And heat work pumps, so if we're looking locally, heat network, design and management of heat networks, depending on which way the government want to go with their energy. And again, modern methods, that's a totally different way of working for the industry, but there's different jobs aligned to that from, you know, if it's a fully automated line, it's more aligned to manufacturing. So there's the assembly operators, but designers, and I think crucially the project managers. At the moment, I hear we're sort of looking at modern methods as 2 distinct operations, with manufacturing on one side and installation on the other, on-site installation on the other. Having worked in high value manufacturing in the automotive sector, I know that's not the case. It is one continuous cycle. So I don't think you can look at it in two parts. And especially, as I say, for the ops managers, the project managers on site, they will have to have an insight into the whole process. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Upskilling. So what skills and competencies is the workforce going to need? So retrofit, I believe, and this is just my belief, it's going to be a big program of upskilling needed, because as I say, it's not new. This isn't something that we've just, just hit the ground. We've been doing this for years. People have been working in this sector for years, but it will need changes of behaviour. So talking to one of my employers this morning, national employer, working across the 3 nations, they want all of their employees to be aware of what net zero is, what sustainability is, what lean construction is. So there's a big piece to raise the awareness of everybody working within the sector, but relevant to what they're doing, what their job role is. It's that level of knowledge needed at each stage. Behavioural and digital skills. Digital is huge, absolutely huge. So what we're hearing now is work around digital twins, which is that's an exact digital replica of any construction project. And if you think about it as a step up from the BIM information on there, also heard it called data twins or virtual models. So that's, I have heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard last week that from Q2 of 2023, any project on social housing will mandate a digital twin. Now, I know that we're still having the same conversations around data sharing, intellectual property, that we were having 10 years ago in BIM, interoperability issues, that sort of thing. So I know we're still having those conversations in industry, but we've got to move very, very quickly to meet digital twins. So digital is absolutely essential across every piece. For me, key, and I think if you think about retrofitting as in quality management and quality assurance, then it's that integration between trades, which is different to how traditional building projects are being done. It's understanding how the bit that you're doing, how does that impact everybody else? And again, think of manufacturing, think about the customer in manufacturing isn't just the end user, it's, the process is either side of you, so are still your customers. Understanding RMI in traditional buildings, again, retrofit will only work if the building is in a good condition to start with. Training targets that reduce errors and defects, absolutely. Right first time, efficiencies, quality are going to be the key to that. And that, again, that's going to be a change in culture to the way we've always worked. But also that the training builds capacity and it's incentivised. At the moment, we're struggling with supply and demand and probably will need some pump priming from the government eventually, but we're all in that space and we're just waiting for that direction from government so we can take it forward. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the key barriers that came out of the Building Skills for Net Zero. And as I say, that was released just over 12 months ago, but I think these are still the same today. I don't think much has changed. So as I've just said, the demand for skills training is low. The pipeline of work isn't there as yet, but also the security about being involved in that work, because we've all been bitten before, going right back to 2007, 2008, when EPCs were introduced through to Green Deal. There's not enough security there for people to be confident to make that jump and go into that sector. Training supply is not net zero ready. So training has got to go in a much more planned approach. And I think we need to be looking at a more sort of lifetime learning model, which meets with commercial need. So a bit more of the step on, step off CPD upskilling model. And I know I've worked with a number of FE colleges and HE institutions who are looking at developing or embedding net zero skills into existing qualifications, but also looking at methods of delivery to make them more attainable for the current workforce. So maybe looking at microcredit modules that can be banked and APL'd into further qualifications. And again, the performance cap on number 3, the industry does not deliver sufficient quality consistently, and that is going to be absolute key. Because if the quality isn't there, there will be a massive performance gap, and we won't achieve net zero targets, which is why I keep going on about it is going to be all around right first time materials, quality assurance, supply chain management is going to be absolutely key. And the last but not least, absolutely critical, we've got a poor reputation as an industry still. So it's really difficult to attract that pipeline of talent that we're going to need, and we're going to need to be able to change very quickly. So that brings me to probably what is the biggest challenge we've got at the moment, and certainly what I hear time and time again from various different sectors, various different large, small, medium, micro, is recruitment. Next slide, please. So a couple of months ago now, I think we released a couple of research papers, rethinking recruitment and how to attract the next generation. Now, these are really, really interesting read, and I would urge you to go and have a look if you haven't already. So as I say, it doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter what sector, from, really large projects through to heritage, niche skills. I hear the same thing. We can't attract people. We can't recruit. Nobody's interested in coming to work for us. And also remember that other industries are saying the same thing. So we're probably up against manufacturing, who are also saying the same things. And we're all fishing in the same pool for the same people as well. The young people, that pot has been slowly diminishing for the last, 5-6 years, and that won't grow again for another 8-10 years. So that pot's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we've got to be really good at trying to attract the talent that we need. So rethinking recruitment, that takes an interesting view on insider outsider perspectives. So the insider perspective, it's a really great, flexible industry to work in, lots of opportunities, really good earning potential. But that's from people who already have knowledge on the industry. 9 times out of 10, people who have already got father, uncle, whoever working in the industry. An outsider's perspective, not quite the same. So they're not aware of the vast range of the opportunities. The reputation and the image is really poor, and it's not an environmentally friendly industry to come in and work in. And these are things that are really, really important to the next generation, to Generation Z. So these are some of the things that are suggested that the industry can do to try and attract that pipeline of new talent to come into the industry, and also to retain. So some of the things there, looking at diversity, progression, absolutely key. Succession planning, absolutely key. Using ambassadors to change perception. Different methods of attracting new people. So what are your organisational values? What sets you above everybody else? What makes you a good place to go and work? So that cultural transformation, fairness, inclusion and respect. Bad practices are still there. We know they're still there, but we need to get rid of those bad practices to be able to attract those people who definitely think differently to us, the older generation. I definitely include myself in that one. Next one, please. So this is some of the things that we're doing to support that. As I said earlier, right at the start, one of our key pillars is careers, making sure that we can get those people in, we put the support in there for employers to get the people they want. So our Go Construction website, so that's funded by CITB levy money, but it's informed by all of our other stakeholder partners, so people from DWP, employers, careers advisors, education, all have an input on what should be on this website. It was started in 2015 and it's just gone an update and a refresh. But again, feedback I've had from employers is, those videos you've got on there, they're pre-COVID. We've got some much better updated ones, which is great. And please, 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 if you have and you've got somebody who would like to do a video with us, please get in touch, because we'll always after really good, relevant, peer-to-peer videos. It is really, really powerful. So on the website, on the Go Construct website, we've got in excess of 180 job roles in construction, which goes through, salary, what qualifications you need, progression routes, case studies, that sort of thing. There's an A to Z of careers, personality quizzes, myth busting, fun facts. And there's also information for employers who might be interested in recruiting ex-military or ex-offenders. And there is a huge program going on within the prison system at the moment as a pathway into careers in construction for ex-offenders. And I know a lot of people who've had some really, really good people through that route way. And my husband himself is actually in prison this week teaching potential new entrants. Although I did get a little bit worried when he said he got to take a disc cutter into a prison. I wasn't sure about that. There is also essentially an awful lot of resources on there for careers advisors, for educators, for employers. So there's activities, videos, presentations, games, quizzes, all sorts of things that you can use and tap into if you want to do some career work or some work experience or taster activities, and it's suitable for each key stage. Next one, please. Also on Go Construct is the link to our ambassador program. Previously, this was run by CITB. We did have a huge number of ambassadors listed, but not all active. So, gosh, about 2 years ago, it went across, the ambassador scheme went across to STEM, and is now administered through STEM. So our ambassadors have a lot more access to e-learning into how to be an ambassador and access to all sorts of things. We've really started from the beginning on that and rebranding again, and we've had some really good results. End of last year, I haven't had an update since, but end of last year we were up to about 150, but they were all very active. So although the numbers have gone down, the activity levels have gone up, and we can also support locally. So as our engagement team can support our local ambassadors with regular CPD events and that sort of thing. But this is really important, and we know there's a lot of people out there that are really, really passionate about getting people into construction and spreading the word, providing opportunities. We could go to career events as an engagement team, but the message isn't right from us. It hasn't got that impact. The impact comes from the employers. So if we can support our employers to go out and be ambassadors, that's where we need to be positioned. And next slide, please. And finally, Talent View. I don't know whether anybody's seen Talent View. This is a Construction Leadership Council initiative. So when COVID hit, when we thought there may be lots of jobs lost in the industry, the Construction Leadership Council led on the Talent Retention Scheme, which was a portal for jobs available in construction for currently employed, but also people could put their CVs up on there and put themselves in the shop window, essentially. That, as we know, didn't really happen because our industry was probably one of the few that carried on and actually grew through COVID. But also from that, the Construction Leadership Council has launched the Talent View construction scheme. Talent View has been in existence for about 20 years now in manufacturing, and it is a portal, not a matching service, it's a portal for employers and colleges and universities and training providers and individuals for new talent coming into the business. So an individual or a student can register themselves, they can put their profile up in the shop window, employers can put their job opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities, graduate opportunities, also work experience, which is key. Everything coming out of government at the moment is requiring a work experience. Tasters, all sorts of things can go on this portal. It is very new. It was launched in September. So what we're doing is trying to support as many people as possible to be registered on Talent View. Talking to one of my employers this morning, Dave, a national employer, they have just advertised their apprenticeships on Talent View. And so far, they said there's a really good range of jobs out there. So it's not just trades, it's a really good range of jobs. And it was very easy and very intuitive to use. Talent View is also linked into the National Apprenticeship Service. So any apprenticeships are advertised on there, pulled through to Talent View. And it's also linked to Go Construct. So we have linked from our Go Construct website into Talent View and vice versa. So if somebody sees a job, a young person sees a job and thinks, oh, that sounds interesting, I wish I knew more about that, they can link through into Go Construct where all the information is on that job role. As I said, it's very early days and a portal is what it is. It will only work if we've got enough people using it. So that's where we're trying to support at the moment, getting as many people and as many opportunities as we can out there that young people can tap into. And that's me. I think I've rabbited on for long enough. Next slide.
Sandra, thank you very much. What I suggest you do now, if you wouldn't mind, is stop sharing your screen. And we'll go to the results of the survey. Let's see if there's any surprises that have come forward. If we go to the first question, so biggest challenge to your organisation, and what are results? So recruiting new staff overwhelmingly is the most, if you like, significant response, with materials and labour costs a long way back in second. Interestingly, nobody's identified environmental and sustainability requirements. That's interesting. Any comments on that, Sandra?
Well, I think that really reflects what we're seeing as an engagement team. The environmental and sustainability requirements, as I say, the demand isn't there yet. So we're all struggling. We know it's coming. We know it's going to happen, but we're all waiting for the government to press that button.
Right.
And say, you know, what projects are going to be delivered, what standard it's going to be delivered under.
I won't talk about nuclear because that's in one of the questions, but I would suggest that might be a trigger for certain requirements. Anyway, let's go to the next.
Definitely. But as I say, the recruitment is what I'm hearing everywhere is that this is a challenge.
So to what level is your organisation digitally enabled? Work in progress, 2/3, not at all, 1/3, fully skilled and competent, nobody. How does that hit you, Sandra? Is that as expected, do you think?
Yeah, that's about right. You know, we're seeing more adoption, and I think it depends on the size of the company. The large companies, tier 1 contractors, absolutely fine. They get it. They know what they're doing. As you go through the supply chain, it gets less and less and less. But, you know, going forward, linked to net zero, linked to the digital twins that we're going to need, linked to sharing data. We have a network in CITB. We have a network of training groups, which are funded through CITB for the admin, but they're run by employers for employers, so predominantly smaller micro employers for training, to arrange training. We had a session with them last week nationally, and we had a speaker who was talking about digital twins, and afterwards I had lots of employers coming to me and saying, it makes sense now why I'm being asked for the information I'm being asked for. And I think that's what we've got to understand increasingly, especially with the Scope 3 report and that sort of thing, increasingly, the supply chain, the micros, the small doing the job on site are going to be asked for information that means probably nothing to them. But I think contextualizing it and putting that why in is absolutely crucial. Why am I being asked for this?
Certainly, I spent 4 years as chairman of BIM for housing, and it was like pushing water uphill, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go to the next question. Let's see what the results are. How important is recruitment of new talent? So everyone says it's important. Well, you've covered that already, really. So let's move on to the next one. What do you think your biggest challenge will be over the next 5 years? So bringing a relative large pool of new staff recruits up to speed, finding new staff, lack of labour, training new staff on modern methods of construction, achieving net zero, shortage of people, recruitment. So yeah, 4 out of 5, it's really all around new staff training and so on, isn't it? Even the achieving
Yeah.
net zero is about upskilling, isn't it?
Yeah.
So okay, no surprises there then, Sandra?
No surprises there.
Okay.
It is a challenge, and I think we've got to really remember this isn't just our industry that is struggling with this. It's every single industry that you hear really struggling. So, as I say, we know we haven't got the best reputation, rightly or wrongly. It is changing. It's changing a lot, and it's going to change very, very quickly. But I think we've got to look outside of the usual. We also know that a lot of full-time young people going into college, studying on full-time level 2 diplomas on the trades don't come into construction. At the minute, we know about 40% of those are going into construction. Now, I also heard that that's happening in manufacturing as well. So why is that fall off? What's the issue with it? Is it because, and again, the ones that are coming into construction usually have somebody already working in the industry, so they know how to get in, they know what the routes are.
Just being devil's advocate, though, isn't that the CITB role?
It's and I think it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one because, as I say, our role is to provide those resources to be able to support employers to recruit. Our role isn't to recruit.
Right. Okay. So you provide the collateral, in other words.
We provide the collateral. We'll support. We'll provide the resources, and please tell us what's needed so we can keep that current. But we can't recruit.
Okay.
Because
let's go on to the questions, if we may.
Yeah.
So we've got some questions, Abraham. If we could show those, please, that would be good. So in 2020, the CITB ran a leadership and management development fund to help members invest in skills development. Will the CITB be running this again? Can you answer that one, Sandra?
Yeah, I think I know the commission. There was sort of a commission that was open to large employers. That one, that's now finished. There's no plans to run that again. But one of the outcomes of that is we are releasing, and this is hot off the press. There's 11 short duration leadership and management standards,
right,
being released, which will be grant eligible. I think it was £70 grant, so that's tier 2 grant. At the moment, there aren't any standards written for them. It's just a title at the moment, and they will have to be delivered through an approved training organisation.
Right.
So what we're doing as a team now is building that provider network up, so we've got coverage nationally for those.
Right.
There is more coming in the leadership and management area for later this year, but now we've got these 11 standards released.
Okay, thank you. The next question then, please, Abraham. The government has aspirations for building new nuclear plants, wind farms, etc., to be operational by 2030. Is this realistic given the skills shortages? There's an interesting one. That's why I left it, because I knew we had a question coming up on this.
Yeah. By 2030, that's quite soon, isn't it?
It's 8 years away. Yeah.
From our perspective,
I had the privilege of a site visit down to Hinkley Point 2 weeks ago. I was on site. Spectacular. Never seen anything like it. 55 tower cranes on one site, 4,500 employees plus other contractors, so probably 6,000 people on site. It was like a small town.
Yeah, and it's I think the fact that it's a nuclear plant, it could be a nuclear plant, it could be a massive, like Smithfield in Birmingham, that is going to be a huge 15-year plan. I think the effect of any big project like that is the drain it has. So for us in the Midlands, with all the work that's going on in Birmingham city centre, it's drawing labour from the
HS2. Yeah.
HS2.
HS2 is having that effect. Yeah,
that's it. Where there's a density, and usually it can attract the higher salaries. It's the smaller projects that suffer. It's the projects outside of that suffer, and that's where we're doing a lot of work around that with local authorities and how they can support locally. So I think
the question here is maybe about specific skills for nuclear, because my understanding is that the people that work at Hinckley, it's very specialised, and to think we're going to build one a year, I think they said. I've got a question mark over that, because the number of people that can actually deliver nuclear projects is very limited because of the specialist skills. So I think this is a very sensible question, and maybe something that we should put to the people at EDF and so on. Yeah, I would think that would be something you could take away, Sandra, in terms of a piece of work for the CITB, in terms of these specialist skills to build these extra nuclear plants, well, and indeed the wind farms, which I'm not so familiar with.
Well, so they only we are sort of limited through that scope order on the skills, so some of it may not fall within our scope. But you're right. You're right. Any new projects that are coming on the horizon like that, and it's the same. There's one over in East Anglia.
Yeah, well, they're planning one a year, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it looks like a big market.
There is learning that we can take from the current project.
I would think those working at Hinkley Point at the moment are rubbing their hands in terms of career opportunities. Anyway, let's have the next question. The construction sector is not seen as an attractive sector to join by young people. What can the CITB do to change this? Well, we've sort of covered that, haven't we, Sandra? And you've talked a little bit about that. You've said that you'll provide the collateral, but you can't actually go out and do the work.
So if you think about the fairness, inclusion and respect toolkits that we've worked with Seeker to deliver, they're being run by Supply Chain Sustainability School that we've also part funded. So they're, free to access resources, the ambassador schemes that we can support, and that's where it's got to come from.
Right.
It can't. The message isn't strong enough. It's not powerful enough for us to stand there and say, "Come and join construction." It's got to be, peer to peer. So apprentices, helping other apprentices, younger apprentices, that sort of thing. But that impact has got to be from the employer.
Okay, we've got something in the chat box from Gerald. I don't know whether you can see that, Sandra.
I did see it pop up, Gerald. Yeah. Yes, they will be added to the Get Code list.
Okay, thank you. Right, everyone, ladies and gents, thank you for that. Couple more slides to show you before we go. First of all, we do ask you just to fill in the exit survey. Back to slido.com, LM080422. And if you could do the survey, that helps us a lot in terms of planning future speakers and so on. That would be great. Next slide, please, Abraham. Have we got the code? There we go. That's the one I was waiting for. So if you go to mypropass.co.uk, create a free account, and then you automatically will get a certificate of attendance. So if you need CPD certification, that's where you go and create your account, and it's automatically saved for you. Now, next week, of course, is Easter weekend. So we've got no webinar on Good Friday next week, but coming back in 2 weeks, we have responsible timber sourcing with Charles Law. Now, Charles Law, if we could go back, Charles Law is indeed an expert in this field. I've worked with Charles for many, many years with my STA hat on. So if you're interested in sustainable construction solutions and responsible timber sourcing, then please do spread the word and come and join us in a couple of weeks' time. But for the time being, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I hope you found the last 60 minutes worthwhile. I'm sure you did. Very valuable. Thank you to Howard and Abraham for hosting us so admirably again. But most of all, a big thank you to you, Sandra, for giving up of your time, your experience and your expertise to join us for this Friday webinar. I thank you so much. To everyone now, I wish you a very good afternoon and have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.